Chapter 8, Lesson 2, Adding a Fraction and a Mixed Number. We're going to continue doing what we started in Lesson 1, only now we're going to have a whole number that we have to add to the final answer. So here we have 4 and 1/6 plus 1/6. The denominators are already the same, so there's nothing for us to do but to add it across. 1 plus 1 is 2. Common denominator is 6. And you just bring your whole number right over here. We have 4 and 2/6. Of course, 2/6 can be reduced by dividing it by 2. Still keeping the 4 the same. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So your answer would be 4 and 1/3. Here we have 4 and 3/7 plus 5/7. We have a common denominator, so we can just go ahead and add that straight across, keeping the 4. 3 plus 5 is 8, and denominator stays the same, so we have 4 and 8/7. So here's what we're doing, what we did in Lesson 1, is we're changing the fraction, that's an improper fraction, to a mixed number, because you can never have a denominator that is smaller than the numerator. So we're going to take the 8/7 and we're going to change it to a mixed number. 7 goes into 8 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. 8 minus 7 is 1. And your remainder becomes your numerator, and your denominator stays the same. So we have 1 and 1/7. Now that is not your final answer because we still have the 4 over here. You can't forget about that 4. So you have to add it to the whole number, which is 1. And you can't forget about the fraction, which is 1/7. So 4 plus 1 is 5. And you keep the fraction the same. So that's all we're doing differently. We're still finding a common denominator if we have to, adding the fractions, changing the improper fraction to a mixed number, but now you have a whole number that you have to add them together. So on a test, one of the answers they'll give you will be 4 and 1/7. That will be wrong, and they will give you 1 and 1/7. Of course, that's wrong too. You got to make sure you add the whole numbers together. And the good thing about Lesson 2 for all of Chapter 8 is only addition. So here we have 2.5 plus 2/3. Of course, 2 and 3 are not common, so we have to find a common denominator. So a common denominator for both 2 and 3 would be 6. I would get 2 times a half times 3 to get 3/6 times 2/3 by 2 to get 4/6. Now I can add those together. I just bring down my 2. 3 plus 4 is 7. Denominator stays the same, so I have 2 and 7/6. Of course, the 7/6 is improper, so I got to change that to a mixed number. Divide the numerator by the denominator. Top number always goes in the box. 6 into 7 goes one time. My remainder becomes my numerator. Denominator stays the same. So now I have 1 and 1/6. But again, you can't forget about that 2. So I'm going to take my 2 and add it to 1/6. 1 and 1/6. And 2 plus 1 is 3. And 1/6 would be your final answer. So here we have number 12. 7/12 plus 3/4. You can change a 4 into a 12, so I'm going to keep 7/12 the same. I can change 4 into a 12 by multiplying it by 3, so do it to the numerator and the denominator, and I'm going to get 9/12. And of course your 5 just comes down along with it. So I have 7/12 plus 5 and 9/12. Denominator stays the same, and we get 5 and 16/12. And of course, like all the other fractions, you're going to have improper fractions that you have to change to a mixed number. Twelve goes into 16 one time. 16 minus 12 is 4. Remainder becomes my numerator, and you have 1 and 4/12. So take my 5, add it to 1 and 4/12, and I get 6 and 4/12. Now, don't forget, you have to reduce. You can reduce it before you add it, or you can reduce it once you add everything together, because 4/12 can be reduced. Divide 4 divided by 4, and 12 divided by 4, and I'm going to get 6. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 6 and 1/3. So number 12 is 6 and 1/3. So nothing's really changing back from chapter 7. You're finding a common denominator, you're adding the fractions. Lesson 1 in chapter 8, we changed the improper fraction to a mixed number, and you're still doing the same now, but when you have that mixed number and you have that whole number, like the 1 here, you have to add it to the other whole number. Because if you forget, you'll of course get the wrong answer, and on a test, you'll have 1 and 4/12 as an answer, you'll have 1 and 1/3 as an answer, you'll have 5 and 1/3 as an answer, and of course you'll have 6 and 1/3. So you can't forget to add those two whole numbers together. Okay, here's part of your homework. Number 3, 8 and 1/6 plus a half. 8 1/6 and a half. Let's look at the fractions. A half, we can change the denominator of 2 into a 6. So 8 1/6, we're just going to leave the same. We'll change this to a 6 by multiplying it by 3. So now we have 3/6. 1 plus 3 is 4 over 6. Bring over your 8. We have 8 and 4/6. And of course this can be reduced by dividing it by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So your answer for number 3 is 8 2/3. Some students are still not reducing. It always tells you right there, write each sum in simplest form. So you got to make sure you're reducing your answers. Okay, so we have 5/7 plus 4 1/2. You can't change a 2 into a 7, so you're going to have to change both of these denominators. So 5/7 and 1/2. Let's see, 7 and 2 both have 14 in common. So multiply this side by 2, this side by 7. So I get 10 over 14 plus 4, bring that 4 down. 1 times 7 is 7, 2 times 7 is 14. Now I can go ahead and add them together. I'm just going to put my 4 here because that's where it goes. 10 plus 7 is 17. Denominator stays the same. So I have 4 and 17/14. And again, the 17/14 is improper, so I got to change that to a mixed number. Fourteen goes into 17 one time. 17 minus 14 is 3. My remainder becomes my numerator. Denominator stays the same. So I have 1 and 3/14. That cannot be reduced, so you're fine. So now you're going to add the 4 that you have left behind plus the 1 and 3/14. 4 plus 1 is 5 and 3/14. And there's your answer for number 4. If you have any issues, make sure you use your notes. Follow the instructions on there as well, or watch this video as many times as you need to.